All right, we're Arts and Adventure Summits, the airwaves. Is the Ogden Arts and Adventure Show with Oberndorfer and Long. I'm R. Brandon Long alongside
Todd Oberndorfer.
And we are your hosts for the greatest, we're going on a limb here, Amy, the greatest arts and adventure podcast in all the land.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know. We called it. How strong is that? Our guests this week include Angela Brown, Craft Lake City, or how do you want to be known?
Yeah,
Angela?
yeah, Craft Lake City, SLUG magazine.
SLUG, yeah. Amy Wicks, Ogden, button pusher. I don't know. What do you?
Oh, what do you say?
I've used the word rabble rouser.
Rabble rouser
Rabble
is
rouser.
probably pretty
Okay.
good.
Ooh, that's
I
good.
served on the city council for 12 years. I work for Utah Foster Care, helping kids.
Yeah,
So
yeah. But do you have the dirt on every person who matters in this
It's
town?
not dirt
Or-
so much as observations, I
There's
think.
observations.
It's observation.
Okay. Okay.
Because this is
Intuition.
a good point too. Because I have this discussion with Brandon a lot. Is that it's the good and the bad of knowing as much as you know, right? And so if you find yourself in a position, maybe it's a position of leadership, maybe you sit on every council that there are, that exists out there. Maybe it's just being at the right dinner party and you start to know more and more and more. Like, is it good? Is it bad? Is it like it definitely changed my
Yeah. When did it go downhill, Amy? When were you like?
And I'm not
you know
talking
what?
that it's
I don't know if I
downhill.
want to know all this stuff.
like,
I just
I want to move.
But it's like seeing behind the curtain. Is
Behind the
seeing
curtain.
Yeah.
behind
Yeah.
the curtain. And
Yeah.
so with me, my first experience with that was a million years ago. My first impression really of Ogden was I worked at Slackwater for years. And I guarantee you with your servers, your bartenders, whatever city you're in, then they know a lot, right?
Yeah.
Oh, they hear things.
And so
Yes.
working at Slackwater for all the years I did.
Okay,
well,
who,
sure,
know,
I
who
got
knows
to know.
more? Servers at a pizza joint / it's kind of a bar, or your coffee baristas.
Probably this, I don't know. I would say the servers.
I would say the
maybe.
servers.
Yeah.
There's more conversations that occur over
Looser
dinners,
lips.
Looser lips.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, because sometimes the conversations that I didn't want to walk up into, I had no choice because eventually you do have to interact with the tables. Sometimes they will, like, are you sure that you want us all to hear what you're saying right now? Because anyway, that was my case.
So who was the mayor when you were city council?
Matthew Godfrey.
Okay. How was that a good time?
It's kind of funny. Like, I think I was painted as somebody who was opposed to everything he did. But if you look at my voting record, I supported like over 90% of what he proposed.
I don't even know if I support Brandon 90%.
No, yeah, he doesn't. and that's a good slogan too. If you could say I support 90%, like that's a lot.
But it was my concern necessarily wasn't exactly about what was being done. It was how it was being done. And if you're doing things with taxpayer dollars and public resources, you need to have the public involved. There needs to be transparency. You need to bring people along. It can be the best idea in the world, and if you don't bring people along, you shouldn't be doing it.
100% agree.
Yeah.
So how did you
90%
affect
agree.
that? Yeah, 90% agree. Were you able to make some inroads there, or
it was really contentious at the time, and I think the council, we were kind of treated like mushrooms, like, keep us in the dark and feed us poo.
Wow,
But
that's harsh.
yeah.
I had 30-minute conversation with a mushroom person at the gallery stroll the other night, and it was
30
series.
minutes.
Yeah, it was probably about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I will have to introduce you to this guy. I'm horrible with names, so it'll take the next visit to remember his name. He is currently without home here in town, but he came to Ogden. I think he has a sister here, but he is from Maui. So was in Maui and lived in Lahaina when all
the
of this
fire
happened, right? And so he noticed the banyan, the name of our group,
That's
banyan
the
collective.
tree
and so,
that
and
took
so,
a dive.
and so
Yeah.
we ended up starting the conversation about the banyan tree, and we talked about banyans for a while, and the fact that anybody came in and talked to me about banyans was like, okay, that never happens. It was so great. Like, I just loved the banyan so much. And then he started telling me the whole story. But anyway, he
His
ended
story,
up talking about
not the banyan story,
no,
but his
story.
his.
But then a
mushroom
lot of
story.
it was about mushrooms. And so, as you were about mushrooms, so
Yeah.
I love mushroom stories.
I love mushrooms.
And on that note,
Yeah.
Are you a mushroom person?
no, know, but I think I'm going to have to try the mushroom coffee. Have you done that yet? Because I've been off coffee now for about 3 weeks because of massive intestinal issues. This is what everyone wants to know about, pretty much on the podcast. When they're listening. This is why they tuned in. And so, I'm like, well, you know what? I drink tea, and it's kind of boring. And so, but then they got all these ads that they feed you on the socials with this like Rise coffee and the mud coffee, all these mushroom coffees. So, do you prefer a brand or what's?
I haven't tried it, but I think I would probably like it as well. I think it's that sort of the effect without that sort of acid. And I have a hard time with coffee. I have to have food. I mean, it has to be planned out.
Yeah, I didn't know. I drank like a whole pot on an empty stomach for like 8 months, and guess what? It messes with your it does massive damage to.
Oh yeah, I think it does.
I didn't know. Now you know.
I think tea is sexy though. Tea is fine.
Delicious.
Tea is sexy.
Yeah, I love tea.
Love tea.
It's good for you.
I have a tea collection.
Yeah.
What do you guys drink?
Oh, anything from mate to matcha to genma chai to chamomile, Earl Grey.
Okay. I've got the Irish breakfast.
Drink, you'll notice the difference between the different ones. You gotta.
Okay.
Irish breakfast is good. I like it with milk.
Half and half.
Oh.
Half and half, and a little butter actually. Is what I'm doing. But
I haven't tried the butter and tea or butter and coffee trend.
Yeah.
But
were you out of milk or something?
No, with half and half.
Why the
that
butter?
sounds delicious. Actually,
Well,
did you hear about that?
So because that's the famous coffee. What's his name? I mean, that's his whole shtick is that you have coffee with butter and it's coconut oil, but it's MCT, a derivative of Bulletproof. Yeah, the Bulletproof guy, Dave Asprey. That's his name. Dave Asprey with Bulletproof coffee, and he wakes up, he has coffee. And I have the Ninja or whatever, and then you put like a teaspoon of MCT oil, and then you put a tablespoon of butter in your coffee. It tastes phenomenal, by the way. It's very frothy, and it's supposed to do wonders. Like your brain's supposed to be on fire, and kind of, but it gave me anxiety a little bit. But
too much fire.
It's too much fire, a little too much fire. So, but it actually works in tea because there's not as much caffeine, and then the MCT and the fats are good for you. And I've
heard you got to be careful about the MCT, like not too much.
Like a tablespoon a day max, I think is what they say. Yeah.
I have no idea what you guys are talking about. What does that even stand for?
MCT oil is a derivative of
triglycerides.
Yes, medium chain
triglycerides
of coconut oil. You can just use coconut oil if you don't have some
like
MCT sitting around. But you can go into Walmart and buy MCT oil now. I mean, it's all over. So yeah, but it's
where I'm going to go.
It's coconut oil without. If there's anything bad in coconut oil, but it's the thing in the coconut oil that makes your brain go.
And it's also kind of a diuretic, I think, right? So like.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's what I've heard.
Okay.
So you got to be careful.
Yeah.
Double diuretic.
Yeah.
Okay. And I know, like on Mount Everest, they drink tea with yak butter.
See?
Oh. Yeah.
But butter is the move if you're backpacking and it's cold at night.
It's butter.
Right before you go to bed.
Eat some butter.
You eat butter. You could melt it and put it in your tea or whatever. But a bowl of butter because it helps you stay warmer. Why it works, I'm not sure, but something to do with it takes the fat.
That's why they have the butter tea at the Tibetan restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
Probably. Yeah.
No idea.
Yeah.
See, this is great stuff.
We learn stuff on this podcast. I tell you what.
All right, I'm going to put us back towards a little bit.
All right, thanks. Thanks, Todd. Thanks. Appreciate that.
All right, so how many times have you been on the show, Amy? Have you counted back? Do you have any sense? Brandon, do you know? I'm not good at remembering.
I've been involved with
3 or 4.
A number of shows, yeah.
We need a punch card. We really do.
And I've done Mr. Goodyear's neighborhood.
Yes, I do remember.
Yep. Shout out to Wojciechowski, whose daughter just got into Harvard, and so he was just there with her. I know. We'll never hear the end of it. They just posted. Gosh. They were dropping her off, Mommy and Daddy Day, dropping your kid off at Harvard. There was that, Wojo.
What is she studying?
I don't know, but I want to say she was at the business school. So
cool.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
I think you're probably right. I think
she'll be opening some business in 2 years.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
And she'll come to us for help because we're brilliant, Todd and I, at it. So.
Well, and I've hosted a podcast at my house before too.
Yes.
Yep.
That was fun. The backyard Wicks.
The Nine Rails podcast on the deck with 9 rails.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Is that thing still standing?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay.
Okay, so do you remember what drove you to want to become a council person?
Oh, I do, exactly. So...
And what did it take to get that seat?
Yeah, so it was this was 2003. I was 28 years old when this thought first entered my mind. And I
She's young for political aspirations.
I'm the youngest elected official in Ogden's history. And
to this date?
Yep, and the only Native American that's held elected office in Ogden. So my friend Brad Wheeler, I'm sure everybody knows Brad Wheeler. He was a bartender at Beatniks. I may or may not have frequented that establishment on a regular basis. He tried to get me to run for mayor. And
at 28.
Yeah, and I told him, no, I don't want to do that. And then I got thinking, maybe I could be a city council person. And
so what did he know about you then that he would have said something like that?
I know a lot of people. I volunteered a lot. I think we had just kind of talked about what the vision we would like to see for Ogden would look like. We talked about some of the struggles small businesses had. We talked about some of the decisions that were being made by the mayor, by the city council, and the fact that it was just a bunch of old people making those decisions. And they were assuming everybody was a homeowner. They were making a lot of assumptions. And Brad bugged me to run, and I told him no. And he bugged me again, and I told him no. And that thought was still in my mind. And Mary Hall was the only woman on the city council at the time, and she was not running for re-election. And so I called the city recorder's office at 4:30 on the day that the filing period expired at 5 p.m. And called the city recorder, asked if any women had filed. It was Gloria. I remember it was Gloria Barnett was the city recorder who answered.
Do you have to represent a certain district? Do you have to live in a certain area?
No. So Ogden City Council is 4 municipal district seats and 3 at-large seats.
Okay.
So I filed to run for one of the at-large seats. And because the city recorder said there no women have filed, you should maybe come down. So I did.
And you knew that you had to at that
point. I
point.
felt like I had to because there would not be, in a body of 7, not a single woman.
Now, can you affect change more in a town like Ogden as the mayor or as a city council person?
Well, it's kind of...
Or as a podcaster. Let's be honest.
Let's be real honest. Probably as a podcaster.
Yeah, probably a council person. Let's see where we're
going.
Well,
so I think... So the council sets policy. The council decides how money is spent in the city. The buck stops with the city council. If the mayor wants to do anything that costs money, the city council has to go along.
Wait. Time out. So, okay, if that's the case, then how does things like the Economic Development Department approve tax kickbacks and stuff? Does that not go through
that all
economic
goes
development or the council?
That's all the city council, and it's probably the city council serving as the board of the redevelopment agency, which is also one of your roles as a city council.
Okay, so it's not in this town. I know his name, but I'll leave it out. But that one person making that decision, it does have to go through.
It has to get approval.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
If it's costing money, if there's tax increment being offered, if there's an incentive being offered, it goes through the city council.
I mean, there's so much power with the city council because of that fiscal responsibility, right? And that voting power, which actually in some ways, in some viewpoints, even makes you more powerful than the mayor.
Yeah.
Too.
The challenge is you're one of 7. And
Yep.
if you can't
as a team.
If you can't get at least 3 other people to go along with you, then you don't get much accomplished.
And so how much did you know about the position? Did you go to a lot of council meetings?
I went.
Is there a pamphlet? Is
You
there
looked
a
it up on
guidebook
YouTube at the time.
how to...
So when I did this, council meetings were not online. the packets were given to it was funny. For years, there would be a police officer who would show up on my doorstep every Friday afternoon with a manila envelope full of my city council packet.
That's wild.
I moved, bought a new house, and my neighbors saw. And
Who is this?
Yeah, you couldn't miss him. And it like this police officer was like 6'4", big, huge dude, would pull up and flick the packet onto my porch every Friday. And my neighbor...
And she goes to court a lot.
Yeah, my neighbor asked me, like, is everything okay?
I love that.
I can see a neighbor from across the way with like a telephoto lens, just like snapping shots.
Yeah.
Just snapping shots.
OPD
that's
at
funny.
Wicks's house, 5:40 or 4:45 on a Friday afternoon again. What's going on? So, not you like
So that's on a Friday, and the meeting was on which day?
Tuesday.
So you had the weekend.
Yeah, the weekend to
Still
digest
Tuesdays,
it.
yeah.
They're still Tuesdays, and they decide what's going on the agenda on Thursday now and put it all online.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't have that, and you couldn't participate in meetings electronically. Like, we didn't have a lot of those things.
This was the damn Stone Age, I tell you.
It kind of was.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't even have an official Ogden City email address for a long time.
Oh, that's funny.
Which for
That
like,
was safe.
for grandma, like if somebody filed a grandma request, if they wanted government records or your communication for things.
I thought you said a grandma request.
GRAMA, grandma. It's
Grandma?
it's the Sunshine Law.
Okay.
So, yeah. So I kind of had an idea. I really didn't know what I was getting myself into. I did not know, like, you're going to be asked to serve on the sewer board. You're going to be...
No, see, that's one thing I would have known a lot of. No, I'm just kidding.
It's kind of good though that you don't know, right?
Yeah.
Because
It's
maybe
getting
you might not have
sexier.
done it.
The job's getting
So I think, did I... And I don't know if you're ever fully aware of what you're getting into. And
Probably not.
There's a period of time where you are drinking through a fire hose.
Yeah.
It really feels like you're drinking through a fire hose. But I had city council members, Mary Hall mentored me before she left office. Jesse Garcia was a council member at the time. He was so patient with me. He spent so much time helping me. And I really appreciate that, helping me understand the role and, how do you get things done? What do you need to be concerned about? And I remember Ken Alford, who passed away recently, I remember him saying one of your most important tools as a city council member is a question.
Cool.
And that's, so you have mentors, you have people who help you. I don't know if anybody fully knows what they're getting into when they do that, but you do know at the time I did it, you could basically kiss your Tuesday and Thursday evenings goodbye.
Well, and was there a salary associated with
There's
it?
a small stipend,
Yeah.
and when I started, it was about $6,000 a year. It covered your gas and your dry cleaning. It's now $20-some-odd thousand a year, and I believe they have health insurance benefits and things like that.
But still, for the amount of time and energy that you need to put in order to effectively do the role right. It's a lot of it's volunteer.
It is, or you're taking time away from work, or like I had to travel a lot I traveled a lot for work. I turned down professional opportunities because I felt like it was important that I
You needed to be
fulfill
home
my
on
role.
those days.
You needed to be home. You needed to attend the meetings.
Amy, thank you for doing that for Ogden. Wow.
So what was the relationship between this
So
Magnificent Seven when you were part of that group?
Well-
Outside of the meetings, I mean. Did you go out afterwards?
No, like you're usually exhausted and just want to get home.
Was there ever any time you were on the phone with somebody for quite some time?
All the time.
Okay.
All the time. Like there's a lot of, I mean, at least when I was doing it, there was a lot of communication. And, part of it is if you want to be effective, if you want to push something through or shoot something down, you have to have 3 other people supporting you.
Right.
that
So creating alliances and
Yeah.
relationships with the other council members.
Yeah.
I learned that in Star Wars.
Well, and there were times like we passed an anti-discrimination ordinance for housing and employment. This was long before same-sex marriage was recognized in Utah, and we had to push, and we actually overrode a veto. The mayor vetoed it, and we overrode it.
Yes.
How much did you? What this sounds like a lot of times is I've been involved in, including the Banyan Collective, starting businesses, and you start from there's no rules, and you have to figure out, and there's no structure, and you got to put structure in place. And so, how much structure was in place in the city, and then how many times did you look to other cities to say, oh, we should probably do this, and what were some of those cities maybe?
Well, I was always doing research, and we had things that would come to us. Maybe it was us, or like sometimes it would come from within city employees. Like we had a situation when I was on the council where some of our first responders went into a home. They got a call to do a checkup on somebody that had not been heard from by their family, for a while. They go into the house, and the hot water heater was malfunctioning, and the person that lived there was deceased. And there was so much carbon monoxide in that house that it almost killed some of our firefighters. And one of them ended up with some lasting complications from that. I don't know if you remember Ron Gardner, who had Sundance, the horse that was always at the farmer's market.
Oh.
He was impacted by that.
Wow.
And so the fire chief came to the council and said, this is something we can actually have an impact on. We have a lot of older homes. They have older furnaces. You can see smoke. Smoke detectors are required. You can't see or smell carbon monoxide, yet we don't require those. They're required. New building code required them, but there was no requirement to have carbon monoxide detectors. So Chief Matthew worked with the Swanson Family Foundation to get some seed money to buy a huge supply of carbon monoxide detectors that we offered to Ogden City residents for our cost. And the money from that was just rolled back into the program to get more carbon monoxide detectors. And we enacted a piece of legislation that required carbon monoxide detectors in every home and apartment.
Amazing. And do you know of any other towns do that?
Yeah, so Mecklenburg, Tennessee,
The hotbed.
was where Mike Matthew got the idea. And it was kind of a similar thing. So we, passed this legislation. We feel great about it. And then the Apartment Owners Association and their lobby at the state legislature passed a bill the next year saying cities can't enact ordinances like that anymore.
Does that mean you're still stood?
Ours still stands.
Okay.
Good.
And they're required. And if you need
Yeah.
a carbon monoxide detector, you can take your...
Okay, so why would they go against that? They just don't want to have to spend the money
They
to
didn't
put it
want
in
to
their
have to
apartments?
spend the money, and they were making the argument that things walk off.
How dare an apartment owner protect their renters?
Yeah, and the thing is, if something walks off, you just take it out of their deposit.
Well, the renters and the first responders too.
Yeah.
And the first responders.
Yeah.
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 Wild.
Okay, so one last question for you. So we want to know more collectively. This is not just you. The more we know about the past, the less we repeat the same mistakes, right? And so you're a good person to talk to about that in the sense that you can look back at least 2 years now? 21 years?
I don't know.
20 years.
20 years?
I don't want to date.
Okay, so we don't need to do that. But that being said, are we repeating mistakes? Have we learned? Are you frustrated? Are you excited? You're still living in Ogden, and so you're still, under this influence of a council that you're not part of now. But you know
It all went
the
downhill
job.
when
But
Amy
you know
left.
the job. You know what you were capable of doing. You know what the mayor was capable of doing.
I see some things that have changed, but I don't think attitudes have changed with those changes. I see our economic development department and some people with the city living in this scarcity mindset that we have to beg people and incentivize businesses to come here. And I don't know that that's the case. And I think you cause harm to local businesses, to people who are investing their own dollars in to make things happen when you're giving all of the redevelopment agency dollars to one developer under several different names, or you're incentivizing another developer.
It's because we're not going to
build
catch
a lot of
on
things.
as the public. Like, what is?
I guess, I don't. There are a bunch of different LLs. They set up as differently.
If
named
there's money to burn the
LLCs.
banyan, we've been here a long time. we'll take the scraps. We'll take the pocket change of the people that they're trying to get into town.
Yeah.
We've been here a long time. So I hear what you're saying. That's a good point.
So I think that mindset needs to change, and I don't know that that's necessarily the case with some of the bureaucrats working for Ogden.
Where do you think that mindset comes from?
I don't know if they are out enough to see it, or if they talk to it. Like, I don't know. Do you talk to people?
I saw an interesting comment from Jared Allen, who owns some buildings, and you probably saw the same comment. And it was, I didn't know this was a rule or whatever you call it, a statute. I don't know what the hell you call it. But he said that his taxes were a lot more because if it's a building that has like a retail on the ground level with apartments above it, then it's treated differently than if it's an apartment building that goes all the way down to the ground floor. And so he was saying, like, I wouldn't have a problem with a lot of the new apartment buildings in town essentially being, if they had like retail space on the bottom floor, which would be a really good idea, right? But it doesn't make economic sense because of the way they're taxed or something.
There's taxes and there's insurance.
Insurance. So how much can the city affect that, I guess, is the question in the end.
Oh, you totally can. I mean, you can encourage different types of development, and you can discourage it. And there is a push right now that has just started to totally revamp Ogden City Code, and that.
Who's doing the push?
It's something that was started with the planning department under Mike Caldwell, but the efforts are going far into next year. So whoever's the new mayor will take over that and maybe see if they agree with the process that has occurred. I have not been too impressed with the public outreach for the contractors that have been given the job to do this. They reach out to people, but then say, come to the city offices at 3:00 on a Wednesday. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm working, and I'm not. That's
perfect time to have a public
meeting. Yeah, if you really want to engage with the public, you need to meet them where they're at.
Yeah, so do you get frustrated because you don't have the pull anymore? You don't go down?
I do. I love grenades. I love grenades. And I've, with my friend Marcy Rizzi, who owned Booked on 25th, we realized that there was really a lack of a place where people could discuss things. The Standard Examiner doesn't have a
I'm really upset about the Standard, by the way. I feel like, and I've been upset with them for years, only because...
Upset or frustrated?
I'm upset with them because they're the only paper in town. There's so many opportunities that they could have podcasts, which we've talked to them before in the past. They dropped those. They could dive into the arts scene, and they'll drop those. The politics. It just feels, I don't know what the hell they do.
It's bandwidth, and it's the fact that they can only afford 2.5 reporters.
But they didn't evolve. They didn't evolve. In other words, because there's the paper, and then there's evolution. Like, you've got to figure out more ways to make money, because obviously things change, and I guess that's what that part I'm frustrated at.
Well,
is that they just
you look at what happened with the Salt Lake Tribune, and I mean, newspapers are dying, and that's maybe
but brands aren't dying. You look at the New York Times; they have all these different types of ways to get the message out. It's not just the newspaper.
Yeah. Well, news is dying, and I think I sat in on an interesting presentation that Kathy McKittrick, who used to be a reporter with the Standard Examiner, did. She's involved with the Utah Investigative Journalism Project. And the number of newspapers that are dying every year is alarming. And part of it is, people that you have these investment groups that are expecting to buy a newspaper and make a bunch of money.
Oh God! Well, that's dumb.
Yeah.
Who are these guys? I know. But however, that said, and this is something that Elon Musk posted on his Twitter, now X feed, is how did he put it? Is X is see, the newspapers print what was first seen on X. In other words, what I do, because I'll go on X and I follow these people who are reporting directly from the Middle East right now. You won't see that until the next. He's correct. You don't see those same reports until the 24 hours later in print on the big
If
news.
ever.
Yeah,
Or
if
you
ever.
don't
Yeah.
see, or if they're Palestinian journalists, you don't see it at all.
You don't, and so it's very. Is that part of the problem with the paper?
I think let me just weigh in a little bit as a publisher. I think what needs to happen is we need to get back to local journalism. I think you kind of touched on it with the Standard, right? Because like you were saying with this national feed now, X or whatever it is, there's so many different social platforms, there's so many different blogs, there's so many different people doing it better than that we can ever do at a local level as far as covering those national, international politics or beats. We need to focus on what we know, which is our community and the people that we live next to, the people that we go buy our coffee from, that we go, buy pizzas from Slackwater and our politicians, that's who we need to focus on. And that's what we need to do a better job and invest in that. And so I think the nonprofit model the Tribune is trying out is interesting. They're still figuring out, they're still having problems with it, especially when you do take a millionaire, billionaire that comes in and buys it and converts it. But kudos, good for them for trying something. And I think that it is the duty of all newspapers with a legacy to think about keeping that legacy alive. And the Standard needs to absolutely, and they're probably just keeping their head above water. The fact that they are still around, let's give them credit.
It's amazing.
I agree with that. It's just sad to watch because they've got to have an email list. They've got to have some things that they can pull from.
Here's the thing too. Here's my thoughts on that is the fact that nobody wants to pay for anything, right?
Yeah.
Because you can
That
find
too.
a version of it online, or you can go to Twitter and you find a version of it that's free or something. Like I am guilty of that myself, right? And so I work for the city, for Salt Lake City, right? And so we get a lot of links that are from economic developer or something and referencing a Tribune story. Well, I don't currently subscribe to the Tribune because I'm cheap, apparently, or I just... I also find my news free. And so I'm guilty of that myself. And should I subscribe to the Tribune? Yes, at this point I should, having worked in Salt Lake as much as I have. Salt Lake is nice to the sense that just within the last week or so, they kicked in and they're going to,
Are they going to help you?
they're pay for subscriptions for some of the staff. And so at least I'll have reference to that. But it's one of those things where everybody wants their everything free. They want their,
They want
music free.
They want their podcast free.
They want podcasts. Yeah. No, exactly. And so I think that's probably the biggest step. And I know I'm guilty of that too. Is that?
Well, that's what's
how do
crazy
you
is
make a profit
podcasters
on
are
something?
breaking news before journalists, and so this is a totally different subject. But there were some journalists, like our friend who reported on very deeply on some of the studies with the Great Salt Lake, who worked for
Leah?
Larson, right?
Yep.
It did great work and did a podcast with Standard Examiner and then got booted or they downsized and she wouldn't work. I don't know what happened, but that's the kind of stuff that I thought was very valuable for a newspaper to produce.
Well, and most of these podcasts are passion projects, right?
What? Not about the money. It's about the hang.
I mean,
No, it's about the hang. It's about the culture, and it is sort of that.
it's that passion.
Yeah. And I think that it's sometimes contagious with an audience. You start to build that up, and they start to listen to the words that are coming out of our mouth. And so, say we do choose to share a particular story or something like that.
We have a podcast with SLUG Soundwaves. We
Yes.
lose money on that. We don't.
You lose money on it?
Yes.
We should talk. I know how to make so much money from podcasts.
Maybe lose the so part, but just make some money.
Just a little bit of money.
Yeah, a little bit.
Wait a minute. So when did you start the SLUG podcast?
Oh my goodness! What year? It's been around.
I
want to say 15 years now. Actually.
Oh, that's a long time.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we
We're at
changed.
like 14 years.
Yeah.
we changed the
So
format.
you were ahead of the game.
Yeah, we changed the format probably about 10 years ago. It used to just be kind of, we kind of envisioned it as like everything that we want to put in the print that we can't put in the print because of all the limitations with space and all of that. So bringing in different individuals, having different hosts. In fact, at one time we had Dan Nalen, who actually doesn't live here anymore, but from the Salt Lake City Tribune and Salt Lake Magazine. He hosted our podcast for about a year, which is really fun. Did it passion project just for fun.
Weekly,
For high fives.
monthly,
bi-weekly, so twice a
Bi-weekly.
week.
twice a week.
And then twice a month.
Twice
so
a month.
every 2
Okay.
weeks. And then about 10 years ago, we switched it and realized that actually the opportunity for us was to just focus on local music and get back to our roots in that way. So it's just all local music now, no community stuff, but
the podcast is.
the podcast.
So do you interview bands or
Yeah,
do you have them play music?
Yeah, both. So it's
Okay.
kind of NPR style, first person narrative. So our podcast producer sits down with a musician, usually just one. Even if it's part of a whole group, we try and just keep it to one or two, so the editing time is minimal. And asks them a bunch of questions, narrows it down to like a 15-minute episode, and then plays one or two tracks after.
I mean, that's
So-
very similar to van sessions.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe we were subconsciously inspired. I don't know.
Well, I stole the van sessions format from Guitar Center sessions.
I haven't listened to it. I'll have to check it out.
So they were on an obscure channel. It was a channel that was on a cable network that's no longer around. And because the channel had the wildest things. So my favorite morning show is, I'm a sports guy. And so it was Dan Patrick morning show. It's 3 hours long. But then in the afternoon, they would play like movies, like cool, like artsy movies. And then in the evening, they would do like Guitar Center sessions, and they would have these bands. And so it started where they would have these bands play a set, and there was like no audience, but fully plugged in, no audience. But they'd play, and so you'd watch them play a song, and then they'd cut to them in a lounge interview session, interview style or whatever. Is that a dog out there? What's going on? Someone dying?
There's a dog.
There's a dog. Okay. So, but they would do like this, and then they expanded to like full concert and then post interview, and that was sponsored by Guitar Center. And I loved those shows. I was introduced to new bands, but more than that, I was introduced to how the band was started, how they created their music, and because when they meet and they talk afterwards in the lounge, you learn all this stuff. And
Yeah.
that's what I thought
That's
was
the good bit.
That's the good bit. Yeah. And I thought, oh my God, that is so cool. And so when we started van sessions, it was not what it was supposed to. We were supposed to make announcements for the first Friday Art Stroll and then have a band play. And instead we recorded we were podcasters. So Todd and I thought we'd just record it and make it a podcast. So we did that. But it was inspired by Guitar Center, which is a similar format to what you're doing now, because it works, because people want to hear the music and they want to hear the story behind the music.
Well, I want to thank you as well, too, because I do book all the musicians for the van sessions, right? And so we've gotten to a point now where originally it was mostly Ogden bands. These days I try to keep at least, a third to a half Ogden, and then we're going from Logan down to Provo and everything. But more and more Salt Lake bands, right? And so the word is
in fact, our artisan and
out.
programs coordinator was here last weekend. Mads Cole.
Yep.
Oh, Mads is amazing. I love Mads. I didn't know that she worked with. Okay,
Yeah, she worked with
cool.
Crowd.
But here's the thing is that, so I'll get emails sometimes, bands at this point, it's kind of a word of mouth thing that are interested, and more times than not, honestly, I'm not familiar. There's so much good music down in Salt Lake. And so the first place I go to look them up is SLUG. More times than not, they have been interviewed at some point or another.
Yeah.
And so if they have scored an interview with SLUG, it's like in my head, like
That's a notch
point.
up.
These are all the factors that are sort of taken into account. But the fact that I can learn a little bit more about them, and the fact that you are covering these bands that I don't want to say obscure to me, right? They're just obscure to me, right? And so I know, 9 times out of 10 that these bands that end up on our show, if I need to know a little bit more about them, I can go to yours.
Thanks, Todd. Well, and anytime we can help with that, let us know. We're happy to make introductions, feed you lists.
There you go, Todd.
Hand over
Nice.
some of our local archive of music.
I love that. This is something that we're probably just going to have to expand this whole band sessions. I'm already booked. So we do 3 bands or musicians each once a month. And so I'm already booked through June
Nice.
Yes.
next year, right?
Solid.
And I don't want that.
That's
I
good,
love
though.
that, but I also want to. So I booked a whole year last year, and that was not the
years
smartest thing. A couple years
Not
ago.
2023, but
Yeah, and so
2022.
Look at you planning.
I wanted that
Yeah.
flexibility. Yeah, because life was busy, and so I'm like, you know what, this is gonna be so much easier if I just booked them all at once. And then I missed these opportunities of bands that I want bad, or if somebody that's just kind of passing through, and it's just like, hey, you got anything open next month, 2 months from now? And I'm like, son of a bitch. And so now I try to keep 3 or 4.
Yeah, leave
and
some holes.
Exactly, holes is what I'm looking for.
Yeah, just for the magic to just work itself out.
Yeah, slugs, good stuff. You pick up slugs, don't you? on the regular there,
Yeah.
Brandon?
No, I think there's some here.
There should be.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Embedo, so Mad's band is Embedo.
Yes.
And they were here.
Oh my gosh, they
Yeah.
were having so much fun. here.
Yeah.
And they were phenomenal.
Yeah, they were
so
great.
That was
I have
good.
wanted to get him on here for a while now. It's just a matter of getting the date lined up just right, and that was a great show.
I can't wait.
You're
to
gonna
hear
love it. It's really
Can't
good.
wait to
Yeah,
hear.
yeah.
When does it debut?
So
Before this one.
the audio edit is back because thanks to Scott Rogers with The Proper Way. Scott Rogers.
Yeah. What's your process
Talk
here?
about good people.
He's
This
my
is-
neighbor.
This is yes.
He makes my dogs bark when he jogs by every day.
God love Scott. I freaking love Scott. So he's like, will you send me the recordings? And because he likes to mix the bands, right? And I'm like, yeah, Scott, I'll send you the recordings. And then so
His band's sort of our band and collective.
yeah,
We
the
have a
proper
house
way.
band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we actually have like a house band. That's his band.
The proper way. And so he's got this nice studio in the basement of the old post office downtown. And so I sent him the mix. The mix means all the recordings of, in case you don't know, all the recordings. So I sent him that, and he makes it sound nice, and then he gives it back to me, and then I add that to the video. And up until like last month, I did all the video edits as well. But now we have Dixon to help with the video edits, and Dixon's doing a great job. So
Oh, I forget we're doing video too.
oh yeah, it's video too. So, but he did the audio, and
We have like 6 cameras in this little trailer. You should see how many cameras are set up in Dance Switches now.
yeah,
It is.
we got so many comments.
Oh my gosh.
I think I'm being
there's
slimed into like
there was about 8 of them last
itch over here.
on Friday. Yeah. So,
Oh, it's so funny.
but Scott he does it because for the love. In other words, I'm like, dude, what do I gotta like? How do I help you? He's like, I love editing because he learns something every time. So he doesn't always get to. He's never there, and so what I have to send him now is a screenshot of the video live recording so that he knows where the keys, the bass, lead guitar, and vocalists are standing, because then he moves so that if you're listening on headphones, you can hear. He goes, oh, I didn't realize when this went out on video, if I have the bass on this side and they're
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
standing on this side,
Yeah.
it sounds weird. And he's like, so you're going to have to send me a screen, like a photo of the setup. So now I send him photos, and he edits them all. And this way he gets introduced to some bands, and hopefully the bands will want to record with him.
Yeah.
The proper way.
Good promo.
Yep. Good promo. And he does a really good job. And so I got the best compliment, backhanded insult that I ever got. And that was someone came up to me and said, yeah, ever since Scott started editing, they sound so good.
Hey, take it. Just take it.
Well, not only that, but like working
Because I
with
did
some-
all of that before.
Oh.
And so that's why. And I'm like, well, you know what? Scott does a good job. Yeah.
But also, it's so fun to work with people that have that passion, right? That are in it
Yeah.
because they love to do that, and that really comes across in their work, I think.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't even pay him in whiskey. I should.
You should.
You should.
At least give him a hand if he needs one.
Oh, God.
Oh,
Oh, come on. He would have done the same
he
thing.
totally would have made the same.
I feel like I don't get that joke, but I laughed anyway.
He's missing one of his hands.
Oh.
So, yeah.
But
it is.
he's an amazing musician.
Oh, amazing.
He
That's where I
plays
met
a
him with
banjo with
Slackwater.
one hand, for
Plays
God's
the one-
sake.
He's a one-handed
Wow.
banjo
Yeah.
player.
Yep. And an amazing mixer.
I mean, playing the banjo anyway is just like, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So, Angela, you've got a little thing you do, Craft Lake City. You want to talk about that?
Sure.
When did that? Okay, so the winter market is within 4 or 5 years, or is it longer?
This
than
is
that
year
now?
number 5, including
okay.
including the COVID year, which we went virtual for that. So we had
It's a
2 years.
virtual craft market.
I know it was so cool. It was crazy. So we built this entire platform with Mozilla Hubs, which was this free software at the time, and it was like building a video game. And it was incredible because you could build your own avatar and come in, and you could in
Walk
avatar
through the room.
yeah,
And,
and you could meet your friend there and like talk to him in avatar form. And so we had all the artisans. We trained them in literally like 60 days how to work this platform and how to build their own artisan booth and like
Wow.
the tutorials and everything. We got a scholarship from some University of Utah master's students who needed a project to do because the classroom, was all just on its head, the format. And so luckily we got some COVID money from Salt Lake City actually where they hired the U students to come work for us to help us create this platform, which was amazing. And then we taught the artisans how to build their own as well. And then they met the public and met their friends and family there. And you could, we taught them how to build their own online store so that you could still buy and sell merchandise. And it was awesome. It was so fun.
What a pivot. What a great pivot.
Yeah.
It was
Those
so
are my
much work,
favorite stories.
but it was great. We loved it.
But now we're back in person.
We're back in
again.
person. So we did 2 years here at the Monarch.
Yep.
Took a year off for COVID, and then went to Union Station. And this is our second year at Union Station, which is year 5.
Year 5.
Yeah.
And what are the dates
Wait,
for this?
is that right? Or third year? Wait, math. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, year 5.
Congratulations.
Thank
I think
you.
It's amazing. And I love that I know we're at the Monarch right now, but I love that you're at Union Station as well. Because
Yeah.
I continue to get more and more excited about Union Station. And I'll be honest, I haven't always been excited about Union Station. I think
Why is
collectively
that?
we all love the building, but
Yeah.
I would have no reason to ever go there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Been to the gun museums, been to the
Jeez.
I'm older and white, and I have less interest to go each year. And so I'm getting more and more excited about possibilities at Union Station. And I know
Yeah.
that I probably would be less excited if I knew the intricacies of plans and stuff, but I am excited about maintaining this incredible space, which I love.
It needs to be the meeting space for Ogden.
So I'm glad you
I've
said
Tell
that.
us more
I
about
have
that,
thought
Amy.
Yeah. No, I have thought that. Yeah.
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 I was driving to the studio today and I had to go to Riverdale Road. So I took I-15, got off the 24th Street exit, and I'm driving over the railroad tracks, right? And the mountains are right there. And this morning they were literally snow-capped mountains, right? And there's all the railroad tracks. And I was like, sometimes you just need a reminder. So all those railroad tracks, which is what we're literally recording from the 9 Rails Arts District right now. There's 9 rails that come in and out of Ogden. And I was like, God, no wonder Ogden has this adventurous feel and background to it, because you had to take a train to get somewhere, and then you ended up in Ogden, and that's the adventure. That's the travel. And I'm like, God, no wonder Ogden is this adventurous, culturally artistic town. And I was reminded of that this morning, driving over the viaduct, looking at the railroad tracks, and the Union Station is still intact, and it's being kind of revitalized, I guess, to host amazing events like this.
There are plans so part of the problem is just lack of investment over the years. It's a very old building with a lot of needs, and the city's not the best landlord. And we really don't have the resources to do renovations that are required. It's a large campus. I mean, there are some opportunities, but I absolutely believe it needs to be the meeting place of Ogden. I think we made a big mistake by allowing Frontrunner to land north of Union Station and not at Union Station.
Agreed 100%.
So there are there's talk about that. Like,
Could that be rectified?
yep.
Yeah.
And there are also plans they're looking at.
Salt Lake made that mistake too, by the way.
Yeah,
With
they
the Rio
did.
Grande.
Yes, they totally did.
Yeah.
And so there are plans to look at creating a second rail so that the trains can go faster, so they don't have to stop.
Cool.
That will help with travel times. Like there's a federal investment coming, I think, to make that happen.
There's talk of it connecting to Boise.
They're looking at providing commuter or train service from Las Vegas to Boise. Is it feasible? I don't know, but we should at least improve what we have with Frontrunner.
Yeah.
Make it run on Sundays.
Yes.
Make it run at night so you can go to the airport and not have to drive.
Or go to a show in Salt Lake or vice versa.
Yeah.
Salt Lake come to a show in Ogden.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of potential there. And I think, like what you mentioned, Todd, you go to the museums and you go once, or you go when you have family in town and they want to do something. My friends did jazz at the station. That would get me there regularly.
Yeah.
The winter market. We've had some great art galleries there. The Myrna Powell galleries no longer showing things. The gallery at the station, the last time I was there, the lights weren't even working. You need light.
It's a balance of any old space.
gallery.
You have to keep that. You have to keep the old, and you have to have a little dose of the new as well.
Yeah.
And so I think that something that, if it's youthfulness or if it's excitement or if it's that hands-on quality, whatever it is, to really make you engage. And I have been in Ogden for a long time, and I haven't connected in that way to that space. And that doesn't mean I haven't given up on that space.
Yeah.
It just
Well, and
hasn't
the
happened.
history alone, right?
The history alone is amazing.
The history is so
And
cool.
just the shot of having that bookend, the 25th Street on that side is just, I mean, we got the best photo shot of any street. And we probably have won awards for just that.
Yeah.
So we're very fortunate to have that space in a rumbly, earthquakey location. And that's obviously affected, when you have to go back into these old buildings, it's not just a matter of just save the building and just leave it at that. Like, it's a big, expensive process.
And I have to say that the team that runs that space are just so wonderful to work with. And we've worked with a lot of teams at a lot of spaces. And like
And this is now the city, correct? Okay.
Is it the city? Yeah,
It's
the
the
city.
city.
Yeah, they're great. They're fantastic. Like, they're so accommodating. They really want the best for that space. But they have a lot of restrictions, and the building does need a remodel. There's a lot of outdated, there's a lot of weird like quirkiness to it that probably needs an upgrade. That being said, maybe some of that quirkiness should be preserved too, kind of
the goal.
like a balance there.
Yeah.
But we
They could make candles from the smell, 'cause it's got this weird smell to it.
This is like a weird, good smell. I don't know the smell.
Kind of a weird smell, I think. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
All right, I'll take that.
It's where my family arrived in Ogden.
What?
My grandmother decided to move her 5 little kids from middle of nowhere, South Dakota, to Ogden, Utah, while my grandfather was fighting in France in World War II, and sent him a letter saying, when you get home, your home is Ogden.
Holy shit.
And her dad was out here doing stuff at Defense Depot Ogden, and we're part Swedish, part Native American. There was racism, kind of both sides there. She just had heard that Ogden was diverse and the winters
knowing
were better.
you, that is, of course, the story of how this started.
Yeah, so that's how my mom came to Ogden it was about the same month that Joe McQueen landed here.
Whoa. Did they know each other? They must have.
No.
No?
No.
But it was a small town back. Well, actually, not really, right? Not really small.
Not that small, and I mean,
This is the capital of the West.
Joe was a rabble rouser on 25th Street, and my mom was a little kid living in West Ogden. So
what's new this year at the Winter Market?
Oh, new this year. So new for this year is we are bringing STEM to the holiday market. So we have our Google Fiber STEM building in Salt Lake City at the DIY Festival, which is where we produce our big event at the Fair Park. And so we're bringing that to Union Station, which is going to be really awesome. There's this kind of like, we're talking about it being like a quirky building to program. There's this weird space in the back that has very little access. And once you get in the back, there's no windows, but it's kind of big. And we know that if we put artisans back there, they might be a little upset just because it doesn't have the same feel. It's kind of hard to find. But if we put the indie game video developers back there and make an indie game arcade, it'll be perfect because we can keep it low light, which is what you want in an arcade. And they can be back there and prototype their games for the public. So that was a day that we did at the festival this year that was so successful, where we had like 20 different indie game developers come in and just, present their games to the public to play for free.
Oh my gosh.
So we're going to recreate that, which will be really fun. And then also we are in the process of booking performers too, which we've never done at the holiday market. So we are working with Patty.
Tell you?
Yes, to book some Ogden performers. But I was also thinking there's probably a partnership for us to work with you all next year. Somehow. I don't know. I don't know what that is, but
well, I'm a fan of the market and what you do, so it might be worth at least a conversation. Yeah, that's great. And so where, do you know where they're going to be set up? Is it going to
Yeah. So we're going to be kind of So we put food trucks outside, kind of by the flagpole, and we're bringing in, I think, 6 this year, which is more than last year. So they're gonna be up front, and we're gonna put the musicians outside by the food trucks.
Oh, fun.
With some heaters to kind of like draw people in, so they can be like, oh, there's something happening here. Maybe we should go see what's up and like come inside the market. So that's how we're gonna do it.
I think that's a great idea.
And if it doesn't work out, we'll learn from it and make it better next year. But
I like that. That's a good way to look at anything.
Yeah.
We're involved with a new project. What's the name of this one?
Locals Rock.
Locals Rock at the Monarch.
Yeah.
nice.
And it's just when you introduce anything new, it's knowing that the first year is what it is, and then the second year is what it is. And that's that sort of word of mouth thing. And then you pivot with what, people are asking for. I just love the way you work things out. So that's great.
Thank you. Well, and one thing that I think we are trying to be more conscious of is how can we work with the locals here in Ogden? I mean, to make this feel, even though, Craft Lake City, we're named after the capital, Salt Lake City, right? We do a lot of programming in Salt Lake City or around the neighboring cities of Salt Lake. But our mission is to elevate Utah's creative culture, right? Which is why we expanded to Ogden, was to elevate our mission, work on expanding Utah's creative culture. So how can we work with the local Ogden community and make them feel like they're part of this, like this is their event and we're not just Salt Lakers like doing a hostile takeover?
I'm telling you what, I've had this conversation. With, prideful, Ogdenites.
Yes.
And the Salt Lake, the Craft Lake City, to me, has become a little bit more of even just sort of a Utah brand and not just Salt Lake based. And so, meaning it's Salt Lake based, but it's bigger than that. So I do love that you are coming up here for this.
Thank you. And any feedback, any constructive criticism your listeners have, we welcome it. We want to learn from it. And if you see a way to get involved and help us do better, please do.
Well, working with Patty is that's a good choice. That's actually a really, really good choice.
Well, we're talking too with Amy about making our charity. In the past, we actually did a Salt Lake charity, Salt Lake based, that had a broader mission, but most of their work happens in Salt Lake, Project Rainbow. And so now we're actually looking at shifting this year's charity component to be, work
Utah
with you.
Foster Care.
Exactly,
Oh,
but with
wonderful.
the Ogden chapter. So
I love that. That's wonderful. Okay, so what's your next project that's outside of SLUG and outside of Craft Lake City and outside of Market? There's got to be something brewing.
there is.
Can you talk about it?
Well, yeah. So, I guess when you say outside, it's actually a Craft Lake project, but it's brand new.
Okay.
We just announced it last week. It is in conjunction with Midvale City.
Okay.
And it is who also has an old school Main Street like Ogden does, right? That's working on preservation, that has a lot of dilapidation, and also has like 2 developers that own a lot of it. but yeah, so we're working with them to create a creative conference. And so actually what we're doing is Becca Clausen, who is a former Craft Lake City artisan who actually moved to Logan, Cache County a little while ago. And she started this event in Salt Lake. Well, she started in Bear Lake and eventually moved to Salt Lake. And it's called Letter West. And it's a conference for people who love hand lettering. And so calligraphy, sign painting, even pike drawing that's prevalent in tattooing, right? Like we figure like lettering can be open to all these different types of interpretation. Japanese calligraphy, right? Like just the possibilities are endless. But she started this lettering conference for people that are passionate about lettering, and it died during COVID. And I keep hounding her about, like, I was so excited to go to this. I never got a chance to. I bought my ticket in 2020. It got canceled. We were bringing in all these national presenters from all over the world. When are you bringing it back? And she finally hit me back and was like, I'm not. I hate doing events. They're a lot of work. I was like, I hear you. I totally agree with you. But can we help you bring this back? And she's like, no, but you can take it over. So we're taking it over, and we've got Midvale City to kind of help co-present it because it's going to be expensive launching this as she had it as a 4-day event when it died. And we're resurrecting it as a 1-day event. We're bringing in a letterer from Colombia. We're bringing in a letterer from the UK. And it's going to be a 1-day kind of workshops in the morning, keynote speaking in the morning, and then workshops in the afternoon with these keynote presenters and some locals too. And yeah, it's going to kind of.
When does that come together?
That's March 2nd.
Okay, that's cool. I'll be there.
So yeah, come down. It'll be fun.
I'm obsessed with old sign painters. I've been fortunate to work with a few with the gallery that I work at, and And so it's just refreshing to see that there's still people interested in it. One is like a third generation sign painter. And so it's the fact that it is still, and they have to hustle for it, you know.
They
It's
do.
not one of those things where it's just like there's an incredible demand, but this is from somebody who loves print. Like I love print, you know, and it's not always.
Well,
you know.
yeah, like your salt zine. Oh my, the magazine. I mean, it's beautiful. The cardstock,
Well,
everything.
thank you for
Like
saying that means a lot from you. I appreciate
you
it.
put a lot of you just look at it. I mean, sometimes you see publications and they're great. The content's good, but the design isn't very good. Like this is an impeccable project. Like it looks
my
so good.
gosh, I can't believe you say that.
It's
And I
good.
love that I knew that Amy would probably appreciate this because we spent forever coming up with a name for it. And so there was, I mean, you name it, was going here, it was going there. And then I think when we finally landed on Salty was a good, you know, sort of ownership of our own sort of saltiness up here in Ogden for sure. But then it's also one of those things where, of course, there's that association with Salt Lake City. But I'm just like, nope, we own this salt as well, man.
Well, and I mean, maybe Ogden should have been the capital city, right?
Wow, yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out to Ogden.
We're not untamed. We're salty.
Where's Salty? I love that so much.
Wait, so you don't like Untamed?
Salty. would have
No
been a good
comment
one.
if I've ever seen one. Yeah.
If I could have pitched Salty for the same amount of money that they got, I would have done it.
I would have
would've
paid.
been
I
there.
would have.
That
paid
part's
you,
true. That was a lot of money.
I
for
would
it.
have paid you $200,000 for Salty, Todd.
I would have even done a non-Disney font too. We could have done the whole
Yeah,
thing.
you could have.
So when is the next one coming out? This one. Okay, when did this one come out?
This was the project. It just got printed probably within the last couple of months. We'll see the response on it.
Okay.
And so it's just a matter of funding. So we'll have to chat about that as well.
Let's do it. Maybe a pre-order. Pre-order in advance. Now everybody knows what they're signing up for.
As it is now, these are. We use the word scarcity in a negative connotation before.
Limited
These were
edition.
printed as more of a scarcity sort of model, and so it's ended up in the right hands, and and we're kind of distributing it out right now. And so I'll follow up with you on that.
Yeah, and if we can help get it out, let us
that's
know.
amazing. I'll make sure you get a bunch of copies of that.
Yeah, I heard they know how to produce magazines.
Oh, and so well
something
done
like
too
that.
as well. Yeah,
Been doing.
I love your new cover. I like the cover of your new one.
Thank you. Water Pocket. Is that the one?
Chuck did that one? Yeah.
Yeah, Chuck did it.
Yeah, no, it's great. I don't know if you've seen it too. And then
he did
my
so
best
good.
friend works at the post office place. In fact, she's working tonight. And there's
Yeah.
a nice piece on post office place too.
They're Japanese.
Do you ever go into
whiskey
post office
collection.
place? Yeah, great Japanese whiskey. That was a great story. Good angle and a good reason to cover that story too. I was happy to see that. It's a great piece.
Well, that was fun. Thanks.
Oh my gosh, we could keep doing this forever.
Angela, thanks so much for being here.
thank
Catholic
you.
City, Salt Lake City, or SLUG Magazine. What for life? Like, what are you doing with SLUG? Are you just going to do that forever? Like,
I don't know. Why not? Right? Like, well, what I say is that as long as I'm having fun,
Yeah.
I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah,
And I'm still
good.
having fun. And,
Good.
I have a great team. And,
And a great office.
What year are you in? Do you know?
it's kind of weird because I try not to like keep track of things like
Yeah.
that. I don't know. Are you guys kind of the same way? Like after, I don't know.
That's probably a good thing.
We have it in our byline. We're like podcasting since 2010, so we always know when we started. Maybe that's just a good way to try to remember. I don't
That is good. I think
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I'm up to me personally because the magazine's been around for 35, right?
35,
So 35
okay.
for the mag coming up in February, which we're doing a really fun party with 35 local bands all playing
Oh
one
shit,
song
that's a lot of
each
bands.
in two
Wow.
venues at the Urban Lounge and next door at Blue Jeans.
Very
You all
cool.
should come out. It's going to be
Very
great.
cool.
It's,
That's a
yeah.
fantastic idea.
Yeah, it's so fun. But yeah, I think I've been doing it 23 maybe.
Cool.
You're still having a good time.
I don't know. I remember picking it up when I was like, I've been reading it since I was 14 years old. So,
Well, yeah, that's how. I mean, that's why I'm here. Is because
Yeah.
I started reading it.
yeah.
And I don't know. And then I just had the privilege and opportunity to be able to take it over. And I don't know. We're just still doing it. Doing
Well,
it as long as we can.
There's so many more things we could chat about, but we're probably getting to that.
Amy, keep pushing
Oh,
buttons.
wait.
oh,
Can
wait.
I want to
Yeah.
ask Amy a question.
Yes.
Oh, good. Yeah.
So, Amy, when are you going to run for mayor?
I'm not.
Well, it would have been now.
Yeah.
So it would have been today because
Yeah.
that's when the voting occurred was today.
Well,
and so,
no, actually, you have until the 21st.
Oh, you do.
21st.
Oh, you do.
Isn't that
The
Okay.
rest
weird?
of the countries is today.
Yeah,
got you.
Yeah,
Okay.
we because of the
Extended it.
special-
Certain things.
special election.
Okay.
You need to have your ballots in by the 21st.
But you can send them in now.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And there's in Ogden you have mayoral race, municipal district 4, and an at-large city council seat. And in Weber County, there is a bond for a new justice center.
Cool.
So
do you want to give
children's
you want
justice
to give any
center or what
plugs?
kind?
Like, can you do that? You're like, oh, I would totally not vote for.
Any suggestions
Yeah.
or things to look for? Maybe yeah.
Or a good resource if we want to find out a little bit more.
Who are
about
you
it.
voting for mayor?
So I've started a online forum.
There we go. It's about time. I've been hitting it this whole
The
time.
Ogden Journal it's the Ogden Journal on Facebook. It's a open group. There's discussion. There's links to
Thoughtful discussions too.
Yeah, there's links to the candidate profiles and articles. I try to curate a news feed with stuff related to what's going on in Ogden. I think that's where you found the discussion that Jared posted about.
Yeah, I think
the
Deanne
insurance
posted
thing.
about the closings on that. So Gear 30 closed. I didn't know the chicken place closed.
Oh,
and
they've
then
been closed for a while.
okay, and then Wimpy and Fritz announced that they were
Yeah.
closing. And so she was
No
like, yeah, the
way.
brick and mortar side. Now they do, I don't know, I don't know.
They co-own
The
the
Ogden
Ogden Brewery,
beer
yeah.
company.
So I don't
which
know.
is
How,
amazing. Was just there earlier this week.
yeah,
Great
and
place.
so they're, but that whole, and Slackwater, which used to be there, is now moved. And so that has turned into like this ghost town. In other words, and that's where the comments sort of came up. So
Yeah.
Do you remember the first time we had Marcy on the show? Marcy's your partner on this project. Do you remember?
No, I remember, no.
So we were set up outside of the amphitheater for was it the Ogden Art Fest or was it?
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, she was so nervous. She was so nervous about being on the show, and I'm sure it was the Outdoor Adventure Show. I can't remember which show it was, but so we had to. She had
You
she
had
had
to
a
help
bunch.
Did we have to
Yeah,
give her some drink?
we're like
What did we do?
sponsored now, but there's
Hold that pillow up
thoughtfulness.
there, Todd.
Yeah.
Come on now.
Yeah,
There we
but
go.
I don't know if it was Roosters then that we provided, but that's what she needed then, and it ended up being a great, really, really good conversation with her. But it's so funny thinking back now because she's so comfortable talking to people now, and she's such an incredible resource. But I remember her being so incredibly, overwhelmingly nervous.
And she
And she was
contributes
surrounded
to
by
what
good
you're doing
friends.
now.
Yes. So part of what started it was she sent an email like, "Hey, I'm starting this Substack thing. I want to write about
That's right.
things."
Yeah.
And when she had booked on 25th, that really was kind of the front porch.
She had
for
a voice.
Ogden.
Mhm.
She had a voice. It was a gathering place. She had special events. Like it was a place where people could just come and talk about things. And we felt like that was lacking. There used to be the Weber County Forum. It was a bit salty at times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Nasty or salty?
salty.
Okay.
Salty's a better word like that.
But it was a place for people to discuss things or
Yep.
say, hey, is my gut feeling off on this? Or am I missing something? And it was kind of a place where you
I am shocked
spell
at
that
how, as a society, we have access to all the things except actual personal interaction. Mm-hmm. That we can just go discuss things, because we used to just show up in groups at the coffee shop and discuss bookstore and discuss things.
It still happens a little. It still
Yeah,
happens a
but
little.
you used to know, like, if you wanted to people, like, you felt like you wanted to just talk to random people or interact with people, you could show up at Grounds for Coffee and sit out on the smoking porch, and there would be somebody interesting to talk to.
Maybe it'll come around in full force.
I think we're lacking, we're lacking some of those
I
connections.
think you're probably right. Well, thanks for putting this together. And what's the name of it again?
The Ogden Journal.
The Ogden Journal. The timing of obviously
It's a
was
group,
perfect.
right?
Yep, it's a Facebook group.
Yeah.
There's a profile set up, but basically it'll
group.
link you to the group.
Thanks so much for being here. Thank you to Banyan One. That is this trailer thing for powering today's episode of the Ogden Arts and Adventure Show with Oberndorfer and Long. Listen and subscribe to Ogden Arts and Adventure on YouTube. Look for us on Facebook, Instagram, Apple Podcast, Spotify, thebanyancollective.com. If you want to be on the show, you can DM me, that is us, on Instagram at Ogden Adventure, or if you know someone that you think would be a good fit to be on the show, at Ogden Adventure. This week's Outdoor Jukebox, we will leave you with some local talented artists. This is Vincent Draper and the Culls. Who Are You Now, as recorded on Van Sessions. We'll see you on the next Ogden Arts and Adventure Show.
are you now? Are you moving to love? Have you been lit up? Are you painting or writing poems? Singing your lungs out? Are you fighting for the oppressed? Have you seen the world yet? Do you think you earned it when you rest? Who are you now? Are you becoming hard to find? Good on your payments, or are you falling behind? Hair turning silver, do you feel it when it rains? Were you made only stronger, or does your heart still ache? Who are you now? Who are you now? Who are you? Who are you now? Who are you now? Who are you?
Vincent Draper on the Culls on Van Sessions. So good.